Welcome to Valley of the Sun Real Estate Show. Anything and everything you need to know when it comes to your real estate needs right here in the state of Arizona. Hello, Arizona, and welcome to this episode of Valley of the Sun Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Jason Bates, the lender who lives in and is a part of your community. Hey, if you want to reach out to the show, I want to hear from you. And you can do so by visiting my website at www.valleyofthesunrealestateshow.com. And from there, you can email me or connect with me on Twitter or check out my YouTube channel. Any and everything is all right there in one convenient spot on the web at www.valleyofthesunrealestateshow.com. So go visit the site. I really would appreciate it. And hey, if you're listening to me on iTunes, do me a favor and write a review of the show. That is the only tool that I really have, other than maybe you emailing the show, that I have to help improve the show. If you want to be a part of the show and you'd like to be maybe a guest on the show, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about that as well. So visit the website and reach out to me, and I'd love to connect with you.
Do it, man.
So with that being said, today's topic is going to be 6 questions you should be asking your real estate broker or your real estate agent. Now, I've done some past episodes on how to look for a good real estate agent, that sort of thing. But I've kind of narrowed this down here for 6 questions that you should be asking your real estate agent before you hire them. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an example here because I just talked to a past client of mine this past week, and he told me that he had his house up for sale, and the agent just really wasn't doing anything for them. He had the property listed at about $220,000 per the agent's advice. Ended up getting an offer and getting it all the way down to $205,000. Now, that's almost a 10% decrease in value. So that tells me either that agent didn't know what they're talking about when listing the property, or the agent was just lazy and let the listing go a little bit stale, which that probably happened. So I wanted to kind of put this kind of questions together as to, before you get under a contract with a real estate agent or a real estate broker, as this being your biggest investment that you will ever make, and you want the best representation for your property, and so that you can get the highest and best offer on your property in the quickest amount of time, then you need the right person. There's a little bit of an old saying here in the real estate industry that 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business. It's probably more like 10% of the agents are doing 90% of the business out there. Now, with this gentleman who called me, I put him in contact with an agent, and we did a 3-way conference call together. And he got off the conference call and called me back and said, Jason, she knows what she's doing. I can just tell by speaking to her and the questions and how she was articulating herself and representing herself and answering my questions. She really knows what she's talking about. I said, well, yeah, of course. I'm not going to put you in contact with somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about for your situation. So vitally important that you as a consumer pick the right agent when representing you and selling your property. And I can't stress that enough. It's representing you. They work for you. And I think we lose sight of that a little bit. The agents actually work for you. Now, with that being said, you have to listen to the agent and take their advice. You can't think that you're an expert in the field and say, well, my house is worth $250 when all the data and all the evidence supports a $220,000 house. It just doesn't work. So you got to be open-minded and really take into consideration their expertise, but finding that right expert is can be a bit challenging. So these are some questions that will help you decide on who you should have represent you and your home. So question number 1, what experience do you have? And it's not just about the number of years of experience, but if you're selling a condo, what experience do you have in selling condos? And especially here in Phoenix, a lot of agents tend to be an expert in the entire valley. And that's simply not the case. I mean, you have agents that say they're an expert for the valley, but there are certain pockets here within the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona, that are just uniquely different than other parts of the valley. And so you want to have an agent that's going to represent your neighborhood and your area and know what's going on in that neighborhood. The top agents really know what jobs are coming in. They may have a feel for the mayor of your particular community, maybe the direction politically that the community is going in based on the elected officials, which can mean job opportunities, which means more jobs, more potentially more value for the home. So you want to pick an agent that's going to know the community that you live in and represent it right. Not somebody, you don't want somebody in Flagstaff driving down and representing your property here in Phoenix. It just doesn't work. So you want to pick somebody that's going to know your area, and asking that person, what experience they have in that community is critical. Now, it's also important that they know what they're talking about. So, what experience do they have in setting the right price? How often do they have to reduce their listings to make the sale? These are all kind of good questions to be asking your agent, because if they have to routinely reduce the sales price, well, then they're not very experienced in setting the price to begin with. And this is one thing I want to make kind of clear here, and I see this all the time when it comes to price, because price is the biggest part of real estate, right? Or the perception of price, or value versus price. I think there are a lot of homeowners who think their property is worth more than what it actually is, or what the market is dictating it is. And maybe you base your value off your neighbor and what they've sold for, but you got to put everything into perspective. One sale doesn't automatically mean that your house is worth that same amount. It can be a one-off, and that goes for a property that maybe has been foreclosed upon. If it's been foreclosed, that lowball sale doesn't necessarily represent the value of your home. So just keep everything in perspective, and by asking a realtor how many times they've had to reduce their price on their listings will give you a good indication as to how well they know the market in your community and how much they have to reduce the price. So do keep that in mind. And you want to know the psychology of the market, because I see it a lot where properties stay on the market, they become stale. Then there's a perception that there's something wrong with that property, so you have to reduce it even more to get the property sold. And that gets into the psychology of the market and the perception of what may be wrong with that property. And you can also put this perception and psychology out there that maybe you're desperate to sell your home, and that's not anything that you want to have as a seller of a property. So with that, number 2, what is your marketing plan? Now, the marketing plan is critical in getting the word out there that your property is for sale. And I have this all the time, or I see this all the time, where realtors just put a listing on the MLS, multiple listing system, and then just sit back and wait for the property to sell, or wait for the offers to come in. And that is something that just isn't going to happen. There's got to be a marketing plan to sell your property. Now, each property is uniquely different. As I said before, a condo and the marketing strategy on a condo is going to be, a little bit different than a single family home. A family style home is going to be different than a second home or a vacation home, and the marketing strategy associated with it. So you want to get to what the actual marketing plan or strategy would be for your particular home. And you want to get that narrowed down and have them be very specific about it. And it's not just take a couple pictures. And, I've had this discussion here with Dave Mason, who is one of my technical guys that helps me quite a bit with the technology that's out there. You got to have good pictures. You got to have good videos. You got to have good everything on a property. We laughed about it. I just had a conversation just not too long ago about realtors who take pictures of toilets. For me, I don't understand that. Now, if it's a master bathroom, take a picture. In most bathrooms here in Arizona, except for some of the older homes, have a toilet closet. Shut the door on the toilet closet. Take a picture of the master bathroom. Show double vanities, big mirrors, whatever. I get that. Big sunken bathtub, whatever. I totally understand that picture. But to take a picture of a commode, I don't get it. So the marketing plan has to coincide with the level of professionalism that they are going to have when representing your house and taking the pictures in the right light to showcase the property at its best. So marketing, you want to make sure that they have a marketing budget, and that budget that you fit into that budget, and what how that budget is going to entail, and how much exposure that they're going to be able to provide you with your property. Because when you're selling your property, you want the world to know that your property is for sale, not just your neighbor. Because you're going to have your looky-loo neighbors that are going to come by and want to take a tour of the property because they're curious as to what their property may sell for. So very important that you get into the marketing strategy and what it is and where they're going to be marketing the property to. Again, if you have a second home or a vacation home or something like that, your marketing is not going to be locally based. Your marketing might be something out of state to out-of-state buyers. So you want to get very specific with your agent on that. And internet is huge. The internet is just huge. And when I talk about marketing, it's not just flyers. Talk more specifically about the internet marketing that they're going to be doing for the property. Because I think that is where it's at. And ask them for some examples of some of the internet marketing that maybe they've done. And it's not just a Facebook post. Can we just get over the whole Facebook post thing? I don't know too many agents that have just sold a property based on Facebook. Now, it's great that you put a property on Facebook and you're showcasing, but I think it's more or less for the realtor at that point, and showing their sphere of influence that they have a new listing. But I don't know that it's for everybody. So you want to make sure that the Facebook posts are showcasing you and your property, I should say, not you, but your property, and not just say, hey, look at my new listing. You want it to have a write-up. You want it to have a description. You want it to have maybe a video of that realtor selling the property and showcasing the property. So make sure that if they're going to be doing some internet marketing, that you get into it and really look at what exactly they're doing. Now, the next thing here is, how will you keep me informed of your progress on the property? So are you going to email me? Are you available via text? How do you communicate? The worst thing is, as a homeowner, you're selling your property, you have somebody that walks through the property, takes a look at your property, and then you don't know what they thought of the property for the next 3 days, right? You're sitting on pins and needles like, what did they think? Did they like the property? Do you think they'll put an offer in on the property? What did they think? Do I need to change out some things? Was the house presentable? Did it smell right? Did it look right? Did I have the right color wall paint? What kind of feedback? That feedback, and that when you have your first person that walks through the property, that feedback that your realtor can give you is vital to your success in selling that property. If not for that person, but for the next person. And your realtor needs to communicate with that buyer's agent. Needs to get with them immediately after that and say, hey, what'd you think? Do you think you're how motivated are your sellers? I'm ready to sell this thing right now, or whatever the conversation needs to be. But your realtor needs to pull that information out of that buyer's agent so that they can then communicate that back to you. And text messaging, I can tell you right now, text messaging, I don't really like it. It's a great way to communicate very quickly and carry on multiple conversations very easily. But texting when you're selling a property, in my opinion, just doesn't get the emotion behind the selling of the home. But if you're a texter out there and you like texting, you prefer that, sometimes you're at work or whatever, I think, in my opinion, would be, hey, call me when you got a few minutes. That would be the gist of the text, because I think a phone call and a conversation would go a lot further in helping everybody be on the same page, especially, like I said earlier, about selling your property and selling it for the highest and best offer. Because, again, this is the biggest investment you're ever going to make. But you're going to want that lines of communication. You're going to want that open. And if a realtor says, hey, look, I shut my phone off after 6 o'clock, that might not be a realtor that you want to deal with, because a lot of the real estate transactions happen after normal business hours. So, and if they're out, you want to find out if they have skilled colleagues. If you're dealing with a team of realtors, that they have some skilled colleagues that will cover if they are or your realtor is unavailable. And then you want to make sure that they won't let anybody just view the property unless their representative is present at the property. You don't want just a listing or a buyer's agent just to come out without having some representation from your realtor. And I think that's very, very important. Number one, it shows you as the seller that your realtor is committed to the success of selling your home. I do see a lot when realtors just say, yeah, go take a look at it. It's this and that, and don't want to get in the car to go look at the property. Now, I understand the thought process behind that you can't be in two places at one time. But that may be where a realtor needs an assistant to go out there and represent you and your property in the best light, because you want them to sell the property. That's what they do. You can't just show up and then have an offer. And I think a lot of realtors get into that habit of letting the property kind of sell itself, and then forcing the seller to present the property in the best light, which I agree is critical to the sale of the property. Don't get me wrong, but there's also a human element that needs to be put in place. And if you watch any of these TV shows with these real estate agents, they're always present when somebody's at the home because they're selling the property. They're selling the square footage. They're selling, the maybe views of the property. They're selling the lifestyle of the property. They're selling. And that is very critical. And when they're doing that selling, they're engaging in communication, and to which then they can return that communication back to you. Okay, number 4. I know it's taking a little bit of time here, but number 4, what is your commission? Now, why is this important? Because you want to know, number one, it takes profit from you as a seller, so you want to know how much you need to pay them in commission. And you need to ask also, based on that, to see the budget of the property. How much are they budgeting for that marketing or for the promotion of the property? And that commission plays a part in that. So you want to know what their commission structure is there. It also tells you the level of commitment that they're going to have. If they're going to be, selling the property for 0.5% commission, well, they're probably not going to be the agent that's going to come out and showcase that property and sell it face to face. They're probably going to be the agent and say, hey, go check out the lockbox in the bush and tell me what you think. And that'll be the extent of it. And so you want to know what their commission is. Number one, because it affects your bottom line. Number two, it shows the level of commitment that agent's going to have towards selling your property. Now, number 5, another important, very important question to be asking your realtor. And by the way, do not be afraid to ask your realtor any of these questions. These are very standard questions. Don't be afraid to ask about the commission. Don't be afraid to ask about the budget. Don't be afraid to ask any of that. Remember, this is your house and this is your property, and they work for you. You're the boss. And so I know it can be a little intimidating asking some of these questions, and some realtors may not want to answer them. And if they don't, then move on. Get a realtor who does. Or, even better yet, call me and I'll put you in touch with a realtor who would be more than happy to answer all these questions. Number 5, how well connected are you? So why is this important? The better connected that realtor is, as I stated before, if they're connected with what's happening in the community through political means, and I'm not talking Republican, Democrat, I don't care about that. It doesn't really matter when it comes to real estate, but how well connected they are to the city that your property is located in will give you a good understanding as to what's going on in the community. But not only that, if they're well connected, they may have a set of investors that look for particular properties that they may be able to put in contact with your property. Also, how well connected they are is a good indicator of how they are perceived in the community, in the real estate community. There are some realtors who are just horrible, and the real estate community knows that they're horrible. And there's other realtors who are very well liked and know and other realtors know of them and have heard of them and really respect the type of business that they do. And so how well connected they are is a good indicator for you to see their reputation and what kind of person and professional appearance they put out. Now, the last one here is, do you have references you can give me? Now, I know it sounds a little cliche, but you want to look for those references. And not just references from prior sales. Most of the time, they're going to give you somebody who's very positive, right? I mean, references are nothing but positive thing. But you also want to see if they have any references online. Now, we all know that most people go to the internet, at least 90% of people go to the internet when searching out real estate. Well, you can do the same thing when we're searching out your real estate agent. If they don't have that online presence, then that goes back to number 2. What is your marketing? If they don't have a good online presence, then they're probably not going to be able to promote your property online. But if they don't have a good line, or you may see some reviews like Yelp and some of these other things, that may give you some indications of whether or not you should be doing or having this person represent you and your property. So what kind of references can you give, not only just verbally with past clients, but maybe another realtor? Can you give me another realtor who respects the business that you do? Now, it might be a little tough for them because they may be feeling like they're giving their business away. But if you interview several different realtors, which I highly suggest that you do, you can ask one each of them if they know the other person and ask them about their reputation and what they know and what they don't know. So there's definitely different ways that you can go about asking for references. Obviously, the having somebody just give you a reference is going to be a positive one. So you want to find out the negative things, not just the positive things. But you want to find out if there's any negative stuff out there. And if there's not, then there's not. That's fantastic. But if there is, you definitely want to know about it before you get into some kind of buyer-broker agreement with that realtor. So bottom line here, you're in control of the situation. Remember, they work for you. You do not work for them. You can definitely let them go at any time that you don't feel they're representing you and your property properly. But do your homework and ask these questions. Don't be afraid to ask these questions. The better you understand that person representing your property, the more comfortable you're going to feel about the opportunity of them selling your property. So I hope these questions help you in your search for a good realtor. If you're looking to sell or buy a property, this is a great place to start with those 6 questions. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, if you want to reach out to the show, please visit my website at www.valleyofthesunrealestateshow.com. And from there, you can email the show. You can call me directly. Check out past episodes. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe in iTunes. And if you do listen to this show via iTunes, please write a review, as again, it is the only way that I have to monitor this show and make sure that I put out the good quality content that I hope to be putting out. So thank you. Happy house hunting. Happy home selling if you're a seller. And until next time, I look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Jason Bates, NMLS 220798, mortgage banking license 0119128, equal housing lender, sound effects provided by soundwave.com.